Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Clearly the lights are way too bright in the front tables for those that attended last night. Let me introduce Kaz McGregor from Eagle Technology. I'm Doug Stark from Eagle Technology, and it's our pleasure to welcome you here for day 2 of the 2024 New Zealand Esri User Conference. Hope you've had an amazing couple of days, an incredible night last night. It's fantastic when the MC and the band are just gobsmacked at the effort that people go to, so very impressive. They managed to get the squid marks off the dance floor, which is excellent. We've got an action-packed day again. Kaz will talk in a second about what's about to start, but after that, plenty of streams for you to get into, fill those brains, replace some of those brain cells that may have been slightly damaged last night. And don't forget that this afternoon we have the road ahead back in here, and then of course the farewell function, send you back to your various parts of New Zealand and in some cases back to the US, into Asia, wherever home is. But it's been an absolute pleasure having you all here. So with that, I'll hand over to Kaz.
Thanks, Doug. So welcome everyone to the lightning talks. This morning we're going to do it fast and furious style. We've got 11 5-minute talks for you guys today. And to start us off, we have Shelley Schott from CoreLogic talking about fast and flexible customer feedback. So welcome to the stage, Shelley Schott.
Hi, everyone. The CoreLogic provides property and location data that supports decision-making to our customers in utilities, government, infrastructure, real estate, banking, and more. Blending natively non-spatial data with a spatial location enriches our data sets, allowing for spatial analysis and advanced mapping. We needed to create a fast and flexible way to show the relationship between our property attributes and spatial location. And we also needed to use technology which we currently were licensed for, but may not be fully utilizing. Our maps, we create our maps at CoreLogic using ArcGIS server, and it's powered by a standalone ArcGIS server. With our server license, we have access to ArcGIS Enterprise, which we have currently installed, but only using in one evaluation product currently. Last year, CoreLogic ran a hackathon, internal hackathon, and I decided to use the latest version of ArcGIS Enterprise, which was 11.2 at the time, to showcase what was possible when we combined CoreLogic's rich data with ArcGIS Enterprise. The app created was called the Property Navigation Tool, which can help customers find a property to buy or rent with additional information driven from a map. In the video insert, this is what the app looked like. I used the out-of-the-box dashboard application. The map itself is our base maps, our listings data, and our property information layers. The right-hand side is the census data driving the graphs. The bottom is spatialized market trends showing the average prices for units and houses within your map extent for a specific suburb. On the left-hand side shows the number of listings that are within this map extent. And as you drive around the map, all the information changes. This was the starting point to see how we could use ArcGIS Enterprise, but in different use case. We were then approached by the business to see how we could use these tools to create an application to show different property attributes in one view. It also needed to be streamlined to be consistent between both New Zealand and Australia, because we're across both regions. These are the example of the attributes that we were given. We had property details, property valuation attributes, and property hazard indicators. By joining these data sets using our CoreLogic identifier, property ID, we have a wide range of property attributes which we could use for spatial analysis. This is the app which we created. We used the latest version of ArcGIS Enterprise, which is 11.3 now. the out-of-the-box experience builder with configurable widgets to limit the development time, but also ensure the app highlights the property data. On the main tab, it is designed to be focused in on property attributes, which we call the unit of property. The attribute which we use to symbolize the property points is the property valuation, which is calculated by our CoreLogic automated valuation model. When displayed on a map, you can easily see where the high-value properties are located, and it's no surprise that it's either near the ocean or on a hilltop where there are views. However, there's a lot more information about a property which can be evaluated, and there are a number of search options to help you find a specific property. On the top are our CoreLogic geocoding services to help you find a specific street, suburb, or property address. When you select on the map, the details of the property are seen. These details are driven by the property point's pop-up information and is configured using Arcade, further simplifying the development of the app between different views and different geographies. On the second tab, we focus on flooding and our relationship with AB Intel. In conclusion, ArcGIS Enterprise is a great platform to use a quick, low-code applications to demonstrate what is possible when using GIS. This application is on our booth, so you can come check it out.
Thank you. Thank you, Shelley. Someone's got to be first, don't they? And it's never easy the morning after the night before. But good to see JK, the colleague there, clearly getting some footage for the CoreLogic social media page. Well done, mate. Hand was a bit shaky, though. Next up, I'd like to introduce from Taranaki Regional Council, Victoria Fox, who will be asking questions during change. Question the lemons. Brilliant.
Thanks. Hello everybody, my name is Victoria Fox and I'm a GIS specialist at the Taranaki Regional Council. My talk is about asking questions during change, or as I like to say it, question the lemons. Now many of you no doubt have heard of the age-old saying of when life gives you lemons, you should make lemonade. But the fact is, lemons don't occur in nature naturally. They are a man-made product of us crossbreeding an old citron fruit and a bitter orange. So I'm of the opinion that when life gives you lemons, you should question the lemons. Why am I talking about this? Well, a few years ago, we were given the devastating news of the death of ArcMap. This year, it got its last security update in March, and as of March 2026, it will be taken off of the shelves. Since finding out this news, I've been working hard at the Taranaki Regional Council to end all use of ArcMap. I can say successfully now we have no users outside of the GIS team, and majority of our external REST end users have already been transferred to ArcGIS Pro. But we did, at the beginning of last year, have one major toolbar still sitting in ArcMap. This was our land management toolbar. It was very important, and we definitely had to keep it. Our land management manager requested that we keep this toolbar exactly as it was when we transferred it over to GIS Pro. So I talked to our good friends at Eagle Technology about how we would do this. After many meetings and conversations about costs, effort, and time, our land management manager became open to the idea of us reviewing the methodology of this reports and map books. So what did the reports actually boil down to? Well, what the toolbar did was run sample lines off of the streams to detect nearby fencing and vegetation, and then run calculations based off what it detected. These vegetation and fencings were held in two separate layers. I proposed a new methodology of us taking the lengths of these fencing and vegetations on the farms directly from the layers and then running the calculations off that. We agreed to trying out this new methodology, so we looked at what tools we had in-house to actually do so. We agreed that we could use Python and ArcGIS Model Builder to run the calculations necessary. And then we could use ExpressDoc in Word to actually generate the reports needed. So we started off the madness in Model Builder. As you can see here, it got really complicated really fast. And pretty much, we ended up looking and getting the numbers that we wanted. So then we decided to look at transferring this all into Python for efficiency as well as possible automation. As you can see here, we were able to take one wonderful complex field calculation list into a simple row update cursor in Python. It made it run a lot faster, and in my opinion, looks a lot nicer. Second of all, when we found we were using ExpressDoc, it really didn't like using a report that had both nulls and zeros. So we had to add into the Python coding an extra bit of coding here, which converted all nulls into zeros. It also made our reports actually look a lot nicer at the end of the day too. And then, because we had everything running in Python, we could actually look at automation. One of the requests we needed was a series of map books. We have here a piece of Python coding which detects the height and width of the farm boundary, which is what we ran the map books off of. Depending on whether or not it was tall or wide, it then associated if it was a landscape or a portrait, so that we could automate the printing off of these or exporting of these map series. And so our land management officers could actually go pick up the reports themselves rather than request them from us all the time. So at the end of the day, we had a lot of improvements after transferring everything into ArcGIS Pro and Python and changing the methodology. We were able to make one report and a map series fully self-serve. Our LMOs no longer have to even ask us on the GIS team for them. They can just run them themselves. We were able to fix one of our reports completely and fully, and now it runs completely in ArcGIS Pro. And one of the things I'm really proud of is the fact that we got one of our major reports runtime gone down from 5 days to 1 hour. I'm really happy about that one. So overall, I'm really happy that we were able to question the methodology of this during this time of change. So on that note, any questions?
Awesome. Great. Thank you, Victoria. Great to see the progress going on there at Taranaki Regional Council. For our next lightning talk, we have Aidan Rowlingson from GPSit, and he's going to be talking about AWS serverless functions for GIS, building a single feature service. So please welcome to the stage Aidan Rowlingson.
Kia ora tātou. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, I'm Aidan from GPSit, and today I'm here to talk about how we've used some AWS serverless functions to speed up a process on our software backend. So just very quickly, who is GPSit? So we've been providing precision land mapping and GIS services to clients in the primary industries and local government since about 1998 onwards. Internally, I guess you could say we're an eclectic mix of surveyors, GIS specialists, and software developers. So a lot of our projects involve mapping kiwifruit canopies using GIS. So to summarize, basically we come to an orchard multiple times over its lifetime. We come on site and we capture raster UAV imagery. We survey the block perimeters using a GPS unit. And critically, we do the surveying with field maps. And then we draft the output maps, which look a little bit like what you can see here using ArcGIS Pro. And we run a few ArcPy, Python API scripts along the way. So it's important to note for later that typically we have one orchard per job, which allows us to hang some really handy logic that you'll see later on. So what was the problem? So we store our feature data in AGOL. Now, as I mentioned, we will usually visit an orchard multiple times over its lifetime. So the amount of data that we hold in AGOL is multiplied by, obviously, the amount of times that we go on site. On top of that, in our data sets, in our feature services, we have about 3,600 active orchards. So overall, that's a lot of data. And we all know what happens when we get too much data in our feature services. We get a whole lot of this. I'm just going to move on because it's triggering me. So we get all those classic symptoms of bloated feature services. So we have our brief. So we wanted to speed up our feature services performance for surveying and drafting. However, we didn't want to maintain our own infrastructure. We were pretty happy with AGOL, and we didn't want anything like FME server. So we landed on an AWS solution. The idea would be that when an orchard is ready to be surveyed, we'd temporarily pull all of the existing reference data from our master services for that orchard into a single feature service. Single feature service, or SFS, being the name that we chose for the project going forward. We would then generate a new surveying web map and drafting toolkit, which is basically just an APRX, a Python toolbox, and a GDB for every job. And we would speed up the drafting process further by having the drafting APRX running off a local copy of that orchard feature service stored in that GDB of that drafting toolkit. We then decided that we would orchestrate the process using serverless AWS Lambdas and an EC2 virtual machine tied together as step functions. These step functions in turn will be triggered from our CRM, syncing the timing of everything with our own business processes, which we define in our CRM. So how does it work, very briefly? So we have 3 formats to the data, which I've already mentioned. So we have our AGOL master services, we have our orchard web map and service, again in AGOL, and we have our drafting toolkit. So to kick off the process, a trigger comes from our CRM, and this triggers a Lambda to copy down the data from the master services into that orchard-specific web map, orchard-specific feature service, and it creates that web map as well. So the surveyor comes along and conducts the survey and field maps, and then a trigger again comes from the CRM saying, cool, this job is ready to be drafted. That triggers a Lambda and an EC2 virtual machine to create that drafting toolkit from a template. The drafter then conducts the drafting process on ArcGIS Pro, and at some stage some Python scripts are run. This updates some data back to that orchard web map and service and runs some custom business logic. Finally, to tie everything together, or to close the loop, a Lambda runs which updates the master services from what's stored in that orchard feature service. So for my last slide, overall, we managed to cut our ArcPy scripts running time in half. We managed to reduce our average drafting time by 40%. Most importantly, we restored our team's sanity. So overall, it works really well. It's pretty cheap to run. For instance, our Lambda running time is actually less than AWS's free tier allowance, which is awesome. The only caveat with the Lambdas in particular is that you are limited to basically just calling APIs. You don't get that custom GIS tooling that you might get from, say, Transformers and FME or whatever. But overall, it's super quick, super scalable, and a really responsive system. And potentially, it's an alternative that others might find handy to FME or Apache Airflow if you're looking for a really, again, responsive way to hit the Esri APIs on your software backend. So that's all I had. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you, Aidan. Next up, it's my pleasure to introduce Katie from Stantec. Katie's going to talk about the automation of site inspection reports using, clearly, the ArcGIS platform.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Strohmayer. I'm a GIS analyst at Stantec here in Wellington, and today I'm going to be talking about Survey 123 report automation. First, I'm just going to give a quick background on Survey 123 reporting and how it affected my company. Then I'll discuss the process of building the Power Automate report flow, and finally I'll go into the pros and cons of using this technology. So, what was the problem? Well, when I first started at Stantec, one of my first jobs was to fix an issue our transport team was having with their site inspection forms. So basically, they would head out onto site with their paper site inspection form, fill it out by hand, then come back into the office and type it into a Word document. Obviously, this process took hours to complete, and we thought there's a better way to do this. So we decided that the best way to fix this was by using Survey 123 for data collection and Power Automate to create the report document and send it to the site inspectors. So we decided Power Automate was the ideal tool to use for this, since it helps optimize and automate workflows for various business processes. So what did we do? Well, we took their paper form and using Survey 123 Connect, made a survey that they could take out on site and use. We then took their paper form and made that into a report template, as you can see in these 2 images. Finally, when anyone submitted the survey, this would set off a trigger in the Power Automate flow. the purpose of which is to create the report automatically and send the report to the recipient via email. This flow takes less than a minute to run compared to the hours it would take to do this manually. So here I have Power Automate Flow. It's pretty easy to set up and can be tailored to your needs. This one here has 5 basic steps. The steps work by using a connection between Survey 123 and Power Automate. When you first set up your flow, you'll need to start with a trigger. In this case, it's when a survey response is submitted. It will then prompt you to sign into your Esri account and authenticate a connection to Power Automate. From there, the rest of the steps are simple. Once you are connected, the flow then has access to all your surveys and the information collected. Select which survey you'd like to use in the first step, and then it will take in all that information from the survey. By using dynamic content, we can fill out the rest of the steps with questions or answers from the survey. For the Create Report, we'll select the report template and other information collected from the survey. The next step then saves the report to a specified location in your OneDrive. This then retrieves the files so it can be attached to the automated email. After attaching the report, we will use dynamic content again to create a summary in the body of the email to send to the recipient. Using the information provided in the survey, we can auto-populate the email with information that might be useful to them, such as the project name or the road ID of where they were working. Finally, the flow then sends all this information to the recipient's email. This flow works well for most report automation. However, over the years of having this tool, people have asked for modifications or extra features. So here I have a modified flow. For example, we have one step over here that will notify you of any new information that needs to be added to your survey. So for this survey, for example, we have a project number drop-down list. If the project number isn't listed, there's an other option, and you can type in the new project number. So in the past, we would need to be notified, by someone saying, hey, there's a new project number, and then we would need to go and update our choices list. However, with this new one, if the recipient selects other, I will then be notified automatically with this conditional statement. And the new information will be sent to me in a separate email, and then I can go add it to my choices list. Another modification is sending the report to certain people. So let's say you want to receive every survey that is completed by a certain member of your team. You can create a conditional statement that will send the survey to you if it's triggered. You can also set it so you're notified of reports for a specific project number or site location. There are lots of ways to customize the flow to fit with your specific needs. While this flow does save time and resources, there are some downfalls to be aware of. So sometimes your Survey 123 connection will time out after a few days, and you'll need to re-authenticate. It kind of depends on your organization, I find. For me, it's once a week. When the flow fails, it's normally because the connection is timed out, and that means that it won't be able to run since it can't connect to the information. There's an easy solution, though, although it is a bit tedious. Once a week, I just go and click Update Connections, and I have a little reminder in my email. However, this can get a bit annoying, though, so I created another step in my flow. If my scope fails, I'll receive a different email alerting me to the flow failure instantly. So instead of being notified like a week later when I go check on it, or by someone emailing me saying, hey, I didn't get my report, I'm alerted right away and can fix the issue. So aside from this one problem, the report automation flow has saved countless hours of manual data entry. So you can see here we have almost 300 surveys just from this one. It's become pretty much a staple in all our site inspection surveys and other surveys as well. It's easily customizable and can provide value to many organizations. Thank you very much, and thanks.
Oh, yeah, cool. Thank you. Thanks, Katie. Great to see how ArcGIS can be integrated into the rest of your business platforms there, and hope you guys can take a bit of that back to your own organizations. Next up, we have Sarah Hodgson from Aurecon, and she's going to be talking all about arcade ease and how much she loves arcade. So please welcome to the stage, Sarah Hodgson.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Can I get a show of hands of who else loves arcade and uses it all the time? Oh, that's looking pretty good. That's at least half of us. That's great. Excellent. Well, let's get into it. So here's an example of finding out where we are, our place. Now, I know that we all know we're in this Tafina lovely event centre. So what if we wanted to see that on a map and find out information about where we were? Let's zoom into that and see, we're in a flood area, we're in a coastal inundation area, and we're in a sea level rise impact area. Well, that's bad news, but at least the arcade pop-up made it look pretty. So we're going to get into how you can make that happen. Nice and easy, quick information sets for people, just using good old arcade and pop-ups and web maps. So as a simple example to start off with, has anyone used this already in their workflows and their workplaces, this Google Street View embed? So what you can do, oh yay, I see some hands, that's good. Okay, please feel free to take photos if you need to, no problem with that. It's a really nice little piece of arcade. It's just taking the X and Y coordinates out of the address points from the LINS data service and then using a little bit of code there. And what you can do is have in your pop-up, click and go straight to Google Street View. So you could almost say it's like a digital twin on a shoestring, maybe? Anyway, it's a single source. You can stay in your web map, and then you can pop into a different browser window, see Street View. So this is the example of 1, 2, 3. We've got our arcade, we've got our pop-up, and then immediately in the other tab, it opens up to show us Takina. And I think it's probably too small to see on the screen, but Google Street View is a little old, because in this photo it says that Takina is opening in June 2023. So Google needs to jog on, get some newer photos. So we're all used to the good old standard pop-up, aren't we? Like if we've got some information, it just pops up automatically. If we've got a photo, we can choose where we position it. That's all nice and straightforward. Let's go into the smart forms. And what we can do is if we've got some features that are not quite in the right position, for example, someone needs to edit them, you've taken photos while you're out on your site survey, it hasn't quite put them in proper place, and you want to update that. You can put in some simple arcade, 1, 2, 3, just in the smart form, so that if the geometry of either of those points changes, just by dragging your point around, it will update for you within the actual attributes of the data set. So it's quick editing on the fly, just using arcade and smart forms. So here's an example in an instant app. So some photos that were taken, the person was definitely not out in the estuary, as that number 1 example shows. And so the person who wanted to fix these photos up and share it with other parts of the business, they were able to go into this and drag the point, and as they were dragging the point, they would see the X and Y update. And then once that editing had been completed and updated, the X and Y positions were now correct, as well as where the placement of the feature and the photo was. So if you wanted to export it out to CSV, goodness knows why, let's just keep it all in our web content. But if you wanted to, the X and Y content would now be correct too. This is just getting a little bit more fancy, and it's using geocoding on the fly, almost. But it's simply arcade, again. So it's just using a feature set, and it's looking for the nearest address point on any feature. So in this case, we have some projects placed. What's the nearest street address to them if it's not already entered in? I don't want to manually sift through a whole lot of these. Someone can drag their point for their project into place, and it will automatically come up with the address of the nearest point based on the arcade. This is getting a little bit fancier now. So we're still using the pop-ups, and we're still using arcade, but we're doing a little bit of clash detection. So we're saying, okay, what features are nearby? Are we going to be intersecting with a wastewater pipe, or a water pipe, or a gas pipe in this particular instance? And this is all for features that are existing in there. But what if you wanted to actually do that for features that you created? What if you said to a user, go and draw your polygon, or go and draw your line and see what intersects? You can go into the smart form and you change the arcade just a little bit. So rather than just updating a pop-up to say you're intersecting with this pipe and this pipe and this pipe, this is now telling us, is there a clash, is there not? And the thing with arcade is that it can't do symbology profiles, but if you work around it, like I'm showing here, you could put arcade into the smart form so that when you update a feature, depending on whether it's a clash or it's near to something or it's completely clear you're good to go, you can make arcade do that. And so this is just an example of how we've set this up in an experience builder, 11.1, so that someone can come in and see any features that are already in place and get a detailed report of all of the different features they're clashing with. And if they want to change that because it's not suitable, they want to move it to a better location, they can do that. And so this just shows you real time, well, it's a real video playing, obviously not real time, and it's just explaining how you can have your feature and then you can get your pop-up information, and if you don't like where you've placed it, you move it, and the arcade will be cycling in the background to figure out if it's clear or if it's clashing or if it's nearby to something. So here we go, just drawing in a line, and you can see it's going back and forward, it's decided it's clear, great, let's build a new pipeline there. So that's my favourite way to use Arcade, putting it into the smart form so that you can have editing on the fly and get all the sorts of information that you would want to. You could do that with polygons as well. If you're looking at doing planning around any of the council areas, you can put in a heap of different feature sets and clash and rules information back from your pop-up, use instant apps to print that out. Very handy, very easy, all within the ArcGIS environment. I love it. You can also use Arcade for maths calculations and population change. If you've got predictions for data ahead, you can put it all into a pop-up. Just do what was it going to be, what's the percentage change, up or down, increase, decrease. You can also do sorted lists. So if you're interested in sharing some level of property owner information for a project, but not affecting people's privacy, you can group that into users. So it could be a council that owns it, it could be a company that owns it, or it could be private owners. And that way you get a quick understanding of impacts of the areas that you're in without affecting too much other information or privacy problems there. And you can also do clustered display, tables, all sorts. And another thing about Arcade, you can actually use it all in Arc Pro for desktop processing too. So if you've got bulk editing updates to do, you can do that. But we'll go into that at another lightning talk. So I'll end there. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Got a little bit excited when I saw Arcade in there, and then when there was no Frogger or Pac-Man, I was a little bit disappointed, but probably showing my age. They talk about safety in numbers, so I'd like to introduce the next group. They're a mighty threesome, a couple of my colleagues from Eagle, Darko and Alex, and they're joined by Harry Hankins from Department of Corrections to talk about asset management.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you. Is it preso up? It is. Kia ora koutou. Thanks for having us. We're going to give you a very quick run through of how Corrections has been developing GIS capability for asset management. The story starts in October 2021, when GIS at the department was literally just a couple of laptops with ArcGIS Pro and a whole bunch of asset tables spread throughout the business. So after engaging Google Technology, as part of the Advantage program, we set up an initial work plan, which stipulates a set of activities that we're going to do to work out what business goals they have and work out what relevant parts of GIS they need to enable. The two main things that came out of this was that Corrections wanted to split water and other infrastructure into one stream and building assets into another stream of work. Water infrastructure was led then by Stantec, who did an awesome job at mapping and attributing all the water infrastructure assets and other infrastructure like electricity lines, etc. While we worked with Corrections to develop a bit of a proof of concept for building assets. Now, the challenge here was that we had all sorts of data to work through, data sources. So with building assets, we worked also with Boffa-Miskel, who did drone deploy flyovers of all the Corrections sites. This provided building footprints. And then we used, Downer actually provided a whole set of CAD plans, which enabled us to split the building outlines footprints into sub-areas such as halls, cell blocks, etc., which we then put attributes on. What this enabled was a first proof of concept of all the building outlines. This included multiple sources of data, but going into one, which then enabled this nice experience builder application, enabling Corrections to have one application rather than multiple tables of all their assets, including water infrastructure, other infrastructure, and building assets, with the next phase being, in the next few months, to put all the sub-building outlines in this. And this just goes to that familiar goal of having decision-making or being able to do more effective and accurate decision-making rather than looking at multiple sources of data, which with varying degrees of accuracy. Alex is going to run through how we automated some of the building asset work.
Thank you, Darko. Yes, so there was a need to automate some of the data that has been used so far, and there was a need for it to be simple enough that my good friend Harry here, who is completely new to the industry, will be able to run it without being totally overwhelmed. There was a need to produce a output of any unmatched records, but also to create an archived version of the current data set before it's overwritten with the new tabular data that's added to the geometry. Over time, the tabular data that Corrections had just kept getting improved, and there was eventually no need to have this unmatched output product being written. Then other non-product requirements that we had were dynamic names based on the prison site. That is, if one prison site is put in, then the writer of the data interoperability workspace that I made with Match. We had to ensure that all numeric and date fields were populated successfully, which actually turned out to be a little bit tricky at times, but with a few different transformers, we were able to get that working. The input parameters, whenever the tool was run, had to be nice and clear for Harry, just to know exactly what specific GIS inputs needed to be added to which specific part, and it had to be entirely self-documented within. So data interoperability was the tool that suited all of these requirements perfectly, and the in-process is one that was easy enough for Harry here to be able to add all the inputs he needed to, hit run, get an output, an archive output of what was currently there, and also produce a new one. And now I will pass over to Harry for the next step.
Kia ora everyone, I see I've got 1 minute, 2 seconds left. So my name is Harry Hankins. I am an asset data modeler and data analyst for Department of Corrections. So I thought before I talk briefly on how ArcGIS has supported us, I thought I'd give just some very quick insights as to what and who we are as Corrections. So Corrections has 10,000 staff. That's probably debatable through restructuring. We have 18 prisons nationwide. 15 are for our men's and 3 for women's. We have 130 reporting community services within the community, and they cater for 26,000 offenders currently out there. In terms of net worth for Department of Corrections, it's $6 billion. So that's a lot that we sort of deal with. And from the asset management aspect, is where I'm based in, we have a number of reports that we've put together. One of our main ones where ArcGIS has helped us in terms of the visual side of things is our asset performance, as we have to report yearly to the Cabinet, CO 23.9. We also use ArcGIS in the master planning, heavily involved in the water infrastructure. We also track our carbon emissions, sustainability, resilience, emergency planning. The list goes on. We use it for the flood zones, and there's many more, but obviously as time's run out. But all I can say is it's been a fantastic tool. These men have made it so good for us. And to my manager, Jesse, who is the pioneer who said we must have ArcGIS, and it took 2 years for the Corrections to finally agree. So to Jesse, thank you literally for putting us on the map. Thank you.
Nice work, guys. Yeah, just that way. Cool. Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Great to hear the story there of how GIS is in action at Department of Corrections. For our next lightning talk, I'd like to welcome to the stage Naomi Begg. She is from Taupo District Council and is going to be talking about how they used ArcGIS Hub for their new tool called Taupo Data Insights. So welcome, Naomi Begg. Oh.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to share on our Insights page, which is a project to show key development and demographic information about our district. We've worked with our policy team to create a hub site of interactive dashboards that support the future development strategy and improve the strategy document. These dashboards have potential beyond the policy making, though. Our goal is to combine various data sources to show where growth is expected in a district, as well as where our community currently is and who our community are. So it includes information like demographics, infrastructure, and development locations. The information is important not only for strategic planning internally, but will also be useful for the general public. We've shown this across the council, and the response has been amazing. Our parks team is interested in using area demographics for playground upgrades to ensure that they meet the needs of our current community, but our future community as well. And the environmental health team are interested in streamlining regulatory processes based on insights. By combining diverse data sets, we aim to increase accessibility and empower the Taupo District Council and our community to make informed decisions, ultimately fostering a more inclusive and well-informed society. Before the hub site, getting this kind of information was hard. Challenges included people struggling to access and understand current data available. National data projections don't align with the district growth expectations, which led to the creation of an in-house growth model. This growth model was being managed and accessed by a single user. There was large and complex data and reports involved, and the age-old issue in New Zealand of not having consistently defined boundaries for suburbs, leading to confusion over areas being discussed. We started by bringing in our in-house growth model and converting the massive spreadsheet, which included 40 years, 260 indicators, 30 SA2s, all done over 3 different scenarios. Once we were familiar with the data, we discussed the types of dashboards we could create and prioritize based on the current needs. Our first attempt was to use Experience Builder. This quickly grew, and discussions around different viewing privileges had us starting to look at using ArcGIS hub sites. Meanwhile, it was time to integrate numerous maps and figures into the policy document. After showcasing some of the amazing story maps from around the country, the policy team embraced the challenge of using story maps for their main policy document. Welcome to the Taupo Insights hub site. This is our homepage for all things related to data insights. Information is now more accessible, user-friendly, and simplifies the understanding of different areas and boundaries. We have started small. Over time, this will grow as we get the 2023 census data and as more information is shifted from personal spreadsheets to an organisational view. Now that phase 1 has gone live and this is available to our staff, in the future it will become available to the public. Some highlights have been the opportunity to explore using ArcGIS hubs, enjoyed using its flexible permission functionality, so we can have internal views or select group views and then general public views. We've also made use of the new functionality as it's been released in dashboards, so these are now mobile friendly as well. However, there were challenges in the hub software, such as data download within a dashboard would bug out if we viewed the dashboard through the gallery widget. Overall, we've received great feedback from the teams eager to use these dashboards, along with suggestions for additional dashboards they would like to see. It has definitely opened their eyes to the various ways we can assist them. In conclusion, the Taupo Insights Hub site is a powerful tool that makes important information about communities accessible and supports better decision making across the organisation. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Naomi. Oh, I'll take that. Thank you, Naomi. Next up, it's my pleasure to, it's my pleasure to introduce him, because I used to work with him, Phil Greville from Kenex Ltd. Lessons in crowdsourcing data, and I get a feeling that his subject matter might pique some interest, particularly with morning tea not too far away. Phil? Do you need that?
Cheers, Doug. Good morning. So today I'm going to take you through some lessons I learnt in crowdsourcing public data, but considering last night, I've put it in the context that someone who's a bit hungover might be able to understand a bit better. So we're finding New Zealand's best pie. So I'd just quickly like to point out that this idea came from a personal interest project and isn't specifically related to the work we do at Kenex, although maybe one day it could be. But the concepts are still relevant to any project that involves public data collection and presentation and public engagement. So the idea first came about when I came across the Facebook page Wellington Pie Reviews. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with it. This post is full of people asking where's the best pie in the CBD, where's the best bacon and egg pie. As some people trying to enforce rules, posting it needs to have a price, a rating out of 10, where it was purchased, and I thought this was the perfect problem for GIS to solve. So I quickly put together a simple survey 123 form with a few fields to populate, so just price, rating out of 10, location, flavor, etc. Trying to follow these said rules as closely as possible. And so once I posted it on the page, this is when a few of the problems started to appear. So the flavor field was particularly problematic, as I initially thought there can't be that many flavors. Mince and cheese, steak, etc. There's actually 97 flavors now. So yeah, I quickly learned there's far more flavors, and some people who didn't particularly like these restricted fields with one person posting. I'm sure the triggered love this spreadsheet. It brings rules and order to content. Excellent. Devoid of all emotion. Even better. Pies aren't about data, they're about emotion. I prefer to read about that raw emotion when a good pie is found, and there have been plenty of great ones, even if they're horror of all horrors, bend the rules the triggered few keep trying to enforce on the group without success. Each to their own, I guess. So even more problems. So in my attempt to let people read about this said raw emotion, I made the flavor field a free text field. Would not recommend that. Aside from the obvious capitalization, spelling mistakes, I never realized there were so many ways someone could write mince and cheese, let alone all the other flavors. So this brought me over to Survey 123 Connect, where I was able to use the Choices tab to manage a long list of flavors, and then use the Relevant column, so I was able to add a rule where if the user was reviewing a pie that wasn't in the list already, they were able to add their review and add the flavor that they had just had, which could then be checked and cleaned before adding it to the list. And I also was able to add these same rules to the bakery field. So after a while, the survey got a few responses, and I was able to create a dashboard to display the rules and hopefully answer some of those questions everyone was asking. But after spending probably what was too much time configuring the dashboard and posting on the page, hoping people would now be able to use it to get their pie fix, I realized most people aren't actually aren't at their desktop computer when they're looking for a pie. So luckily, as of June last year, Esri have updated, and you can now make dashboards easy to view on mobile devices. And so then the last thing I did to make it a bit more accessible was I purchased a domain name and hosted the website. I could then easily embed the Survey 123 form and the dashboard into the site, and now you can add reviews and find pies at www.piereviews.co.nz. Also, that's just ChatGPT's rendition of what Wellington pie reviewers look like. So after all this, I'm sure all of you are wondering which pies come out on top. And I can say after 553 reviews, 192 different shops and 97 different flavors, it's still inconclusive, mostly because of another problem I've run into. So I created a leaderboard, although there was a few, it got a bit popular, and in my attempt creating this leaderboard, some of the bakery owners found the site and pumped up their ratings, with the Pioneer in Invercargill getting 60 perfect 10 reviews in the space of a few minutes. I think they also, by mistake, entered a few reviews for the Pioneer Bakery in Featherston as well. I haven't found a solution to this problem, so hopefully there's someone in this room that might be able to talk to me after this and help me solve it. That's pretty much me for now, and I'll just, hope you enjoyed my take on what can sometimes be a pretty boring topic, collecting and cleaning public data. And I'd just like to take the chance to thank Kenex for allowing me to present my personal project, and I look forward to seeing your reviews and love to hear any feedback. Cheers. Thanks.
I'll take that. Awesome. Thank you, Philip. Dare I say that was a 3.14 out of 5-star presentation, so well done. Good to see GIS being used for some actual real-world problems out there, so good to know. So they say lightning strikes twice. We've got Shelley Schott coming up again, so she's going to be talking about overcoming printing challenges, so please welcome to the stage again, Shelley Schott.
Thank you. I guess I didn't expect to talk twice in the same session, but here we are. So at CoreLogic, we provide property and location data that supports decision-making in industries such as banking, insurance, and real estate. In the banking and real estate sectors, a static printable map image, is required for property reports to support lending decisions and real estate appraisals, amongst other use cases. We needed a solution that addressed the following requirements. It needed to create a single image containing multiple map services. It needed to be used within a standalone report. It needed to handle high volume of individual printing jobs, which we expected to be 50,000 a day, but it actually turned out to be a lot more than that. And then it needed to be reliable. So we decided to use ArcGIS Server and use both the out-of-the-box printing service as well as a custom printing service which has some templates. We were also using the export web map function directly from the REST API. Our developers then wrapped an API around this function, which only requires a user to input the CoreLogic property ID and the layers which they want in the specific print. The API then communicates to our property maps to calculate the bounding box, which is needed for the extent, and then as well as the layers to the corresponding map services. For each printing service, which is created and defined in the server manager, there are two ArcSocs that get spun up in the back end of the server. Before doing any mitigations, we discovered that when left unchecked, the printing service, the GP server sync ArcSoc can consume large amounts of RAM. And then also these ArcSocs can get over 5 gigs of RAM, and there can be multiple of them. And this can cause numerous issues on our server. However, the issues start when these ArcSocs consume more than 1 gig of RAM. And these are some of the issues which we encountered. The whole server became slow. When that ArcSoc went more than 1 gig of RAM, the printing lost connection to our S3 bucket, which stores our base map caches. So our outputs had no base maps. And also, when the ArcSocs are large, there's a high chance that it's not listening to our recycling settings that we have in ArcGIS Server. To ensure a stable performance system, we had to do the following mitigations on the server. We needed to ensure that the ArcSocs consumed no more than 1 gig of RAM of allocation. To ensure this, our recycling of our services, we recycle every hour to ensure that these ArcSocs are refreshed frequently in the back end. We also updated the timeout settings to be much lower than the default, ensuring that the unused ArcSocs are not consuming unnecessary RAM. We upped the minimum number of instances running at startup to have less strain on the server as these ArcSocs spin up. When the printing output slowed down, and in our case, when it gradually went from 5 seconds per print higher, it is very likely that there are large ArcSocs in the task manager, and we had to kill them off manually in order to fix the problem. However, this did not fix the entire problem, as the server didn't start recycling the ArcSocs. Our final mitigation was to restart the ArcGIS Server Windows process every night using a Windows Event Manager. These are the examples of what the slowness looked like in our server logs and our AWS monitoring stats when the ArcSocs no longer refresh. Firstly, the printing service goes above a certain average response time. That's our first indicator. Our second indicator is that there are no more CPU spikes when these ArcSocs are being refreshed. So as you can see, we've got, when it recycles, there's a consistent CPU spike, and that stops. We had the temporary fix is to kill off those ArcSocs manually, but the performance still gets worse, and only restarting the server makes it go back into sync and the performance improves. So in conclusion, we've been able to create a stable and reliable ArcGIS printing service, meaning our customers can rely on our reports for more detailed maps to give them more context about a property, to make more informed decisions. Yep.
Thank you again. Thank you very much. Okay, we're almost there. We're on the home straight. It's quite amazing that the topic, we've got lemons, we've done pies, we've done correctional facilities, kind of different ends of the spectrum. We're going to stay at the slightly serious end, and I'd like to introduce Alistar Collow from Massey University, who's going to talk through emerging crime hotspots in Auckland using space-time pattern mining.
Cheers. Kia ora everyone. I feel like I'm stitched up because this is the second time I've presented at a conference following that pie presentation. Anyway, kia ora everyone. Today I'll be talking about emerging crime hotspots in Auckland using a tool I developed on ArcGIS Pro as part of my postgraduate studies at Massey University. So why is it important to analyse crime data? The number of crimes and crime statistics are not just numbers, they represent the safety and well-being of our communities. But how might we allocate resources to reduce crime rates? And what areas are most likely at risk? To help answer these questions, I created an emerging crime hotspots tool that used 3 years of crime data from the New Zealand Police Data Portal to identify crime patterns. For emerging hotspot analysis, we aggregate spatially in space and temporally in time. So spatially, space, temporally, time, using a space-time cube. In this example, you can see any crimes which occurred in the same 10 kilometre by 10 kilometre grid in the same month are aggregated together into a bin and counted. Bins with higher numbers of points are darker and lower numbers of points are lighter. The space-time cube can also be aggregated into two-dimensional polygon layers instead of symmetrical cubes. For my analysis, I used statistical area 2 for aggregating the space-time cube. For emerging hotspot analysis, the neighbourhood is first checked to see if it is significantly different to the study area. If it is identified as a hotspot or a cold spot, depending on whether it is significantly higher or lower than the study area. It is only the feature, not the neighbourhood, that is highlighted as a hotspot or a cold spot. Each bin is assigned a probability measuring how likely it is to belong to a non-random cluster of high values hotspot or low values cold spot. The type and intensity of clustering is then summarised in each location in a two-dimensional grid and characterised based on the location pattern or trend over time. I'm about to explain that. So you get the columns. The key temporal patterns for understanding the emerging crime hotspots results are new hotspots, which have not been significant previously until they became a hotspot in the most recent time period, intensifying hotspots, which have been hot 90% of the time, and there is a significant upward trend, and sporadic hotspots, which have most recently been hot, but over time has switched between hot and not significant. To undertake the emerging hotspot analysis, you need to run two different Esri tools, one for creating the space-time cube and one for running the emerging hotspot analysis. The new tool I developed using Python, it's a great tool, simplifies the process by merging both tools together and reducing the number of required inputs. This is especially useful because of the iterative nature of this kind of analysis. I must have run this about 30 or 40 different times to get a final result. When comparing the emerging hotspot analysis results on the right with hotspot analysis results on the left, we see a stark difference, remembering that hotspot analysis is just space, emerging hotspot is space and time. Both analysis methods identify neighbourhood hotspots in Central and South Auckland areas. However, the emerging hotspot analysis provides further detail, identifying areas as intensifying or newly emerging hotspots in South Auckland and Central Auckland being an intensifying hotspot. We can also see that the emerging hotspot analysis identifies hotspots in Western and North Auckland that are not identified when only considering times spatially, so only in space. This shows the importance of considering crimes spatially and temporally, space and time. The emerging hotspot analysis results show consistent and intensifying hotspots in many suburbs, which indicates an increasing number of crimes. It is also noted that there are no persistent hotspots, which indicate crime spatial dynamics change over time. This is commonly due to crime diffusion or displacement, where crime prevention efforts can cause crime to move to different areas or to surrounding suburbs. Two key limitations of this analysis are data quality and temporal trends. The data quality and quantity is important. There is the potential for bias in the results, such as more frequent recordings of crimes in certain areas screwing the results. Emerging hotspot analysis also relies on historical data, which may not capture rapidly changing trends. And there we are, food time. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks, Alistar. Awesome stuff there. Well, we have one more talk to close out our lightning talk session this morning. So we have Subodh joining us from NZTA Waka Kotahi, and not only is he closing out the end of the lightning talk sessions, he's also going to be talking about the closing out and the end of their beloved platform, MapHub. So please welcome to the stage, Subodh.
Thank you. Kia ora, everyone. My name is Subodh Dhakal. I'm Senior Geospatial System Specialist at Waka Kotahi. Before I start my presentations, can I request everyone who have worked on MapHub in the last 10 years to raise your hand, please? I can see quite a few hands there, and you can tell, getting rid of or, moving from one platform to another one. In an organization like ours, it's quite significant change, and I'm really, fortunate to be part of the team that got a unique and exciting project, transitioning again, from one platform to another. So we moved. So my presentation is about how, migration effort of our geospatial platform from MapHub to a new one, what we call Te Paparanga Miki. My presentation covers mainly 3 key topics, as it's a lightning talk. So the first one being modernization. So what we have achieved, modernization of geospatial platform. By doing that, we have managed to remove technical debt and declutter our content. And as a result, we have a better process now. It's like, African animal migration. Our migration journey started back in 2021, and we managed to finish that, or we managed to, completely migrate start of the 2024. Now, you would ask why. I guess the answer is quite obvious. Waka Kotahi geospatial platform and MapHub application were outdated and unsupported. So there was multiple MapHub applications, platforms, and bespoke applications were floating around that couldn't meet the growing demand for real-time reporting and analytics. And managing these, siloed platforms became significant overhead. That led us to end of an era, MapHub. The first, improvement, I guess, that led us with, adopting enterprise in Kubernetes is, modernization of geospatial platform. So we adopted ArcGIS Enterprise on Kubernetes as a platform for geospatial, which is future-proofed. We also had opportunity to move away from Web App Builder and adopted Experience Builder across the board in enterprise. And we also moved away from bespoke apps and adopt low-code, no-code, out-of-the-box apps. That actually led us offering of new tool and technical capabilities to a wider audience within the agency. Just a high-level platform change, from MapHub era to now in our current state. We used Okta back in MapHub, and then now we are in Azure, AAD. Right. So the second point again. Having a new platform means there was also opportunity to remove technical debt and declutter our content. From that, I guess, over the last 10 years, so now, when decision was made to go towards the new platform, on Kubernetes, we didn't just want it to lift and shift the application from MapHub to the new platform. So we first audited the apps, used the analytics, and prioritize what's moving. And I have to say that, do not underestimate the amount of effort that takes to undertake publishing of all the services and configure apps in Experience Builder, again, coming from Web App Builder, Developer Edition, out-of-the-box editions, and so forth. We managed to, tidy up duplicate layers, so hundreds of layers were removed as part of this declutter process. We managed to migrate 50+ applications to Experience Builder from Web App Builder, and similarly, as part of declutter, or 30+ applications were deemed deprecated, so we didn't bring it into the new platform. However, we archived all of the decommissioned apps as a JSON file, so if we had to reinstate the applications in a new platform, we had that recorded in our archive. Another, I guess, being a large user base, onboarding of the users were also quite challenging, I guess. More than 1,500, users currently we have, and it's growing. So this required, the onboarding of the users required proper change management process as well, where we had to, communicate to users of what's change is coming, and it was also opportunities for us to clean up users who have changed their organizations, who have moved on, and onboarding large user base had to be done in phases, as well as we had to put redirects on all the applications for users that had already been boarded in the new platform. And it is also worth to note that we had to run 2 platforms in parallel for the duration of the change process. That included integration, and we used FME for the integration, and we had to keeping 2 platforms sync as well as running for quite a long time was another challenge that we faced, and we have come this side of the fence. And last but not the least, as a result now we have a better process. Our platform is called Te Paparanga Amiki, platform that provides connection. And we also have, I guess, application migration workflows. So if we have bespoke apps, then we start from our dev through to test, pre-prod, and prod environment. While if it's out of the box, we start, application is gets its journey from test, pre-prod to prod. And we have a Python script to migrate these contents from one environment to another one. And as a better process, we have now automated process to onboard the users via Azure AD group. All the content in production environment is now authoritative content. Similarly, all the custom widgets, as I said, as much as we like to do low code, no code, there will be business requirements for custom applications, custom widgets, and they're all managed via Azure App Service. As I mentioned previously, we use Python script to migrate our maps and apps through to different environment. That has quite good benefit of keeping your maps and apps ID consistent over all your environment. I think all you need is the application's link, and you can just change what environment you are in, and there you go. And we have also streamlined process. So a goal is for our public access and anything that's internal facing, we tend to do in enterprise. And I don't want to take more time between the morning tea and now, so that's my last slide. And if you have any questions, I'm sure a lot of will be going on a journey, similar or so. Please feel free to talk to me or Peter somewhere, or any Waka Kotahi colleagues that I have here around. We are always happy to help. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Awesome, thanks.
Someone had to be last and have that slot just before morning tea. I'm not sure whether that's better than being first. Very quickly, thank you to all of you for making the effort to get here this morning. I suspect in some cases the effort was much greater than others, but hey, it was a great night last night. So thank you very much for that. I'd like to thank Kaz, my colleague here, but also a massive round of applause to all the presenters, please.
So morning tea is going to be downstairs in the expo right now, and the stream sessions are going to start at 10:45. So sorry for eating into the morning tea a little bit. And make sure you stick around for the farewell function this afternoon as well. So enjoy morning tea.
Thank you.